Crime rates are up, and Biden encourages more. The FBI is in turmoil, especially regarding Hunter Biden, and we'll review some key races and topics on the ballot in November. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is Cancel This Show. This is Cancel This, episode 35, recorded mid-October 2022. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PaperMillProductions. You can email the show directly, papermillproductions@gmail.com, and share the post, tell your friends, comment right below on the YouTube channel right there, Pavement Road Productions on YouTube. So, a lot to talk about here this week. I'm going to try to record 2 shows here between now and the election. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get them out in time. I'm taking vacation in November as well. I'm going to be behind on the other shows as well. So we'll see what happens. But obviously, so much going on. I could do a topic just about every day at this point. Biden's the gift that keeps on giving. And I'd love to, and in a bad way, of course. I'd love to do at some point, go through like one of his speeches or go through, some news report or something like that and just kind of go through it piece by piece and fact check it, right on the spot. Because there's so many things that are being said that are just ridiculous, just insane. But I digress. So let's talk about the first topic here, which is crime rates are up and Biden wants to encourage more. Obviously, I want to shout out last episode. A lot of great responses from last week's episode. So thanks everybody for listening and commented and reach out and share their thoughts. Obviously, I get the idea that the format being a little bit shorter is better. More shows that are shorter, I think, is the way to go. So I'm going to try to do that here. Obviously, the first thing I'll talk about, though, like I said, is crime rates are up. So crime rates are up, and Biden's numbers, of course, are down and everything. His economy is down. It's lower than it was under Trump. Even with COVID, it was lower than it was under Trump. And they say, "Oh, we created all these jobs." They didn't. Okay, they didn't create any jobs. They let people go back to work. People lost their jobs because they couldn't work during COVID, and then they're allowed to go back to work, and Biden's taking credit for it. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, see, I created all these jobs." No, you didn't create anything. You literally let people go back to work. It's like I'm 100% more alive than I was when I was dead. Well, true, yeah, because everything changes, right? It's like all these stats. So many stats are lies. So many stats are BS. Trust the science. Well, what's the science? Give some background. The Trevor Project says that it has to be true. No, the Trevor Project is very, very biased, right? So, it's all about the source, right? The source is more important than what's being said. Every time I see a source, I see a news article or whatever, I know what the bias is going to be before I even read it, right? They say, "Oh, Republicans pounce," or "Trump lashes out," right? It's like Democrats do something that's terrible, and the story is that the Republicans noticed, right? And that's the story. And it has nothing to do with the actual bad thing. It has the Republicans noticed that they did a bad thing. And the Republicans are bad, so they notice things, so it has to be bad that they notice. That's not talking about the actual story, what happened. That's talking about the Republicans noticing, right? Or Biden says something incoherent and stupid, and he's a great orator. Trump says something, he gets a reporter defames him, and he says something back to the reporter. It's Trump lashes out. It's just, the bias is pretty outstanding. But Biden's numbers are down. The economy's down. Wages are up, but not, equaling inflation. Now people are going to start losing their jobs because the inflation is coming down because they had to raise interest rates to drive down inflation. All right. And obviously, so that hurts too. Another number that's up is crime, right? And the only reason that crime has not gone up higher than it has is because so many things have been decriminalized, right? I mean, Biden wants, they're trying to legalize more things so that there's less crime. They're trying to put less people in jail so there's less crime stats, right? So there's so many black people in jail, so we have to put less black people in jail and put more white people in jail so we even it out. Well, what percentage of crimes are committed? That doesn't matter, right? it doesn't matter how many crimes are committed by what kind of people. If there's more blacks and less whites or less Asians, let's put more whites and Asians in jail. Sentence them the worse than black people for the same crime because there's more black people in jail. We're trying to even it out. Well, they look at one factor, then they say that's the answer. It's like, well, no. I mean, like I said, suicide rates, of people who are LGBT or trans, right? So I'm trying not to say anything here that's going to be kicked off YouTube. Okay, I'm trying to be careful here. Okay, but when you look at one factor, right, and the stats are that LGBT have higher suicide rates, trans have higher suicide rates, and if you say that's because they're not being affirmed, that's certainly one factor. But there could be other factors that go into play in that as well. Looking at one thing doesn't make it, well, there's no other possibility, right? I walked in the middle of the field, did bring a map, and got lost. Well, it must be because the field is bad. Or the woods, I walked in the middle of the woods and got eaten by a bear. Well, it must be that it's the bear's fault. Bears are attacking people. Well, or that I didn't bring, or I was wearing bear stuff that attracts bears. And it was a season for mating, and I didn't have anything else on me to keep me safe, and I shouldn't have wandered out in the middle of the woods because I knew there'd be bears. Like, all those factors could be a part of it, but if you want to look at one thing and blame that one thing, that's what you're gonna do, right? So crime rates are higher than they were, but they could be lower. They are actually even higher than they appear. Because Biden's trying to decriminalize things to make them, even out the statistics, right? So there's more black people in jail, so we have to put release black people and put white people in jail to even it out. Well, why are black people in jail? Well, it doesn't matter. It's racist. The system's racist. Black people are more likely to get sentenced to those crimes. Well, why? Well, because everybody's racist. The entire country's racist. I mean, that's quite the leap, but that's what you want to say, right? But they are putting people in jail for violation of the FACE Act, which is praying outside of abortion clinics, talking to people while walking to an abortion clinic, things like that, right? So you're going to go to jail for protesting that. Meanwhile, if you burn down a Christian-run crisis pregnancy center and take credit for it, nothing. You don't even get a slap on the wrist. You don't even get indicted. They wink and nod and look the other way. Insane. Stupid. Makes no sense. But who cares? It's not supposed to make sense. Just shut up. What else? Well, Biden signed an executive order to expunge the records and release people who, federal crime, release people from federal prison for drug possession, crimes. So he smoked some weed, like Raphael Warnock. We'll talk about him a little bit later, I think, if we get to it. Raphael Warnock's brother's in jail for a long time he said, for having some weed on him. He's in jail for life for weed. Okay. Now, I'm no expert. I'm no legal scholar, but that doesn't make any sense. That makes absolutely no sense. And if you're stupid and you just believe what politicians tell you, because Republicans are bad, Democrats would never lie. Trump lies. Biden always tells the truth. You're an idiot. You're a moron. And don't vote. Please don't vote in November, because you're an idiot. You're an idiot. His brother's not in jail for having weed. Nobody is in federal prison for weed. If they're in federal prison for weed, it's because they pled it down from something else. Trafficking or something much worse. Lacing it, whatever. So if somebody's in prison for a long time for weed, it's because it got pled down from something much worse. So on paper it's weed, but it's not. And Biden's going to release these people from jail who are in for weed, even though it was already pled down from something that would have been 30 years to something that's 10, or something that's 10 down to something that's 6 months. And now Biden's just going, It's going to go away. Expunge it. Get rid of it. Because you shouldn't be in jail. Nobody should be in jail for weed. Well, nobody's in jail for weed, you moron. You idiot. But it was pled down for something else. Biden wants more crime. Because it's good for him. Chaos is good. You can blame other people for it. And, of course, like everything, especially if you're on the left, right? Like everything, the answer is more government, right? More cowbell. The government's screwed up. Well, more government will fix it. You know, there's problems in your world. More government will fix it. Just rely on the government. Give your power to the government. You know, and if you vote to limit the government, well, you're anti-democracy. You're a MAGA extremist. You know, if people get elected, like the new prime minister of Italy, the new leader of Italy, this woman, first woman ever to be elected prime minister of Italy. Well, she's a threat to democracy because she was voted in by the people. You know, it's really kind of crazy. You know, they don't know what democracy means. And by the way, the United States is not a democracy. It's a representative republic. I'm just saying. But yeah, that's fun. Switching gears here, let's talk about obviously kind of more in the same lines. The FBI. The FBI is a freaking disaster. It's an absolute joke right now. FBI agents, the videos of FBI agents showing people's houses with guns drawn, which is it's like we hand over a country with all kinds of weapons and ammunition to the Taliban. You know, and we surrender all that stuff without a fight. Give these psychos weapons, but yet if you are a pro-lifer who protests at abortion clinics, we're gonna send 30 FBI agents to your house to arrest you. With with these weapons drawn, and threaten you and your kids. And the guy recently, the recent one who was arrested, there was the Mark Houck guy who was arrested. Now there's another one who was arrested for helping set up a protest with him and his 11 kids. And he said, hey, this is a really great idea for you guys, because now, not only did you arrest me and make a big scene at my house, but you also terrified my kids, so they'll know to never step out of line with the government, never protest the government, because they know what will happen. Making an example. Obviously, he was being pretty sarcastic, but also truthful, because, if you want to, he offered, all these people who have been arrested recently by the FBI have offered to surrender. But the FBI doesn't want them to surrender. They want to go to their house and make a statement. This is what happens when you step out of line. And Biden, where's Biden on this? Right? He's releasing criminals from jail. You can sell cocaine, get it pled down to a possession charge of pot, and then get released because you're in jail for pot. Right? So let's let those people out of jail indiscriminately. Let's legalize as many things as possible so there's less crime. So you can say you reduce crime because you made everything legal. And then let's send the FBI to somebody's house because they protested abortion. Right? I mean, and then, of course, what Mark Zuckerberg said, that the FBI threatened them or suggested that they censor the Hunter Biden story. Okay. Yeah, this nice little social media company here. Hate to see something happen to it, right? Yeah, there's a nice social media company here. Hate to see something happen to it. That's what they said, basically. It's a mess. It's a disaster. It's horrible. But what are you going to do? And then for literally months, probably years at this point, they've been sitting on the Hunter Biden stuff. They've been investigating him for tax evasion and lying on his pistol permit and all those things. And they haven't moved forward with it because, Joe's in charge. And finally they got a warrant to indict him or whatever. And so that's, I guess, the plan is to indict him. But the great irony is, why are we indicting him? Because as soon as we arrest him, Joe's going to pardon him, right? So they're saying, they're going to try to get him to flip and talk about Joe and everything, and give up Joe. But the thing is, that's not going to matter, right? I mean, it's not going to matter because if they go after Joe, it's all about the timing, right? I mean, they got a Trump appointed judge to sign his indictment or whatever. Basically agree to have him arrested. But now it's going to be if the Democrats win more seats in 2022 here and coming up, they're either going to this is going to get swept away and nothing's going to come out about it because they've held on to it for this long. Why not a little bit longer? Or they will indict him, and what's Joe going to do? Joe's just going to pardon him, right? And if they pardon him, and they want to try to impeach Joe for all the other things, and they haven't thrown out of office, or they want to impeach him for abuse of power for pardoning his criminal son. Well, there's not going to be enough Democrats in the Senate to convict him, so it's not going to matter. Even if the Republicans sweep all the contentious seats, they're not going to have enough Democrats. They're not going to have enough Republicans to vote to convict. So nothing's going to happen. He'll receive a pardon. He'll be fine. And some of the people on the right, Republicans are getting excited because we're finally gonna have Hunter taken down. He's gonna flip on his dad. No way, no chance. He's not gonna. Even if he does get indicted and he does get arrested, he'll be out in minutes. And he's not gonna flip on his dad because that's the only thing keeping him out of jail. Is his dad. So we'll give you a pardon or we'll give you immunity if you testify against your dad, or he cannot do that, and his dad will pardon him. What's the difference? So the only thing maybe that they could do is have him wait until, his dad's out of office and the Republicans in there. But I'm sure there'll be some sort of deal that somebody works out to get him pardoned. Hunter's going to do no time for all the crimes he committed. Meanwhile, you pray outside of a clinic, or you go into a clinic and peacefully protest in a clinic for abortion rights, or for for pro-life, and you can face 11 years in prison for protesting abortions. But if you're Hunter, you do whatever you want, right? You go into the Capitol building, you let in by the Capitol building by police officers, and then you leave when they tell you to leave, and you go to jail and solitary confinement for years. Or if you're Hunter Biden, you have all these deals with foreign agents. You do all kinds of cocaine, drugs. You are committing fraud. I mean, there's a case that he committed fraud. Tony Bobulinski laid that out in detail. Check that out. Look that up. And also prostitution, all the other things, all the other things that are certainly illegal. And if you do that and you're connected because you're a Biden, you get nothing. And that's what's going to happen. Because there's different rules for different people. If you're on one of the specials, you get nothing. That's pretty messed up. But the FBI is in complete chaos. And again, it's you'll see cops arrest people all the time, and they'll be very respectful and nice about it. And then the FBI agents show up to arrest this domestic terrorist who is literally just praying outside of clinics, praying for the souls that are being taken of babies. Or if you believe that they're just a clump of cells, then okay, they're praying that the woman doesn't go through the procedure, or that she's safe, and doesn't die. And that's wrong. But going and burning down clinics, there's one in my hometown that was burned down. Crisis pregnancy centers where they give them other options other than just abortion. Because a lot of women who get abortions, A, a lot of them regret it later, and B, a lot of them don't know that there are other options. They just go there and they're pushed into it. Coerced into doing it. So they're given other options, and it doesn't matter. So, pretty messed up, pretty crazy, but that's what's currently going on. And again, the FBI, the agents, they're being so disrespectful to these people. And they said, oh, there's good cops and bad cops. We got to get rid of the bad ones. Well, I mean, I guess you can say the same thing about the FBI then. If you're going to arrest somebody and again, you're not threatening his kids, but you're pointing guns in the house, threatening their father for what? Like, did you take an oath or not? Because, I mean, you're shitting on the Constitution. Because a law that was never in the Constitution was struck down, and people are protesting that the law, so you're going to arrest somebody for stopping somebody or for talking to somebody for going to a clinic to kill their baby because they have the right to kill their baby, which isn't in the Constitution anywhere. But the person who's protesting has the right to protest, and they go to jail. It's absurd. And I just want to see where. I mean, again, I'm not Mr. Defund the FBI, but we need a change from the top down. Why is Christopher Wray still employed? He should have been gone years ago. I mean, they replaced so many FBI directors, and the FBI started as a enforcement wing for the Secret Service. It started as the president. I think it was Woody Wilson used it to go after his political descendants. People who disagree with him politically, and he used the FBI to go after him. That's how it started. I mean, that's early. It was started by Teddy Roosevelt, but Wilson eventually started using it in that way and expanded it heavily, and it started getting all kinds of funding. And again, I'm not saying to defund the FBI, but again, we can't live in harmony as a country. We can't do it if one side wants death to their opponents. Like the right disagrees with the left, and the left wants the right to die. And wants to be thrown in jail because you're a MAGA extremist, because you disagree with abortion, or you believe in having show ID to vote, or you're pro Second Amendment. Well, you're a MAGA extremist. That makes you a fascist, right? Like Biden never explains what a MAGA extremist is, but he calls them all fascists, right? But MAGA was not just It was a conservative. It was right wing conservative, and some far right, some moderate right. But Biden says, not all Republicans are bad. Yeah, the Liz Cheneys and the Adam Kinzingers who agree with you, who aren't actually Republicans, who aren't actually conservatives. They're the good ones. Oh, the ones who lose with dignity, the ones who actually don't fight for anything, the ones who roll over and take it. They're the fine ones. The ones who actually fight for their beliefs. Those are the MAGA extremists. And I'm going to send the FBI after them to crack down on them. I mean, I would blame Joe for this, but he doesn't even know what planet he's on. So it's whoever's in charge of his administration, and they're being very secretive about the people who are actually in charge. And Jill, I'm sure, has a lot to do with it because she knows her husband's mentally unstable. But I want the power. She wanted to be first lady really, really bad. So that's what she's doing. And I said, I'm not saying we need to defund the FBI. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying there's a lot of problems with the FBI right now, and it's not getting any better. And leadership at the top, and maybe even cleaning house. We're going to add 87,000 FBI agents and train some of them to carry guns because you forgot to file a form with your taxes. So we're going to send somebody to their house with a gun to force you. This isn't America anymore. It's certainly not. And it's a big, big problem. So we need to reimagine policing. No, we need to reimagine the FBI. We need to reimagine what their mandate is, right? Because if they're supposed to be cracking down federal offenses, the federal police force. Well, who else had a federal police force is the Gestapo. The Gestapo was a federal police force too, and they do whatever their leader told them to do, and they're able to work outside the law, and equal enforcement of the law is important. Doesn't matter if they're on the right or they're on the left. If they break the law, they break the law, and there should be consequences. But if you're special, if you're elite, or you're Jussie Smollett. I mean, he was supposed to go to jail, and they threw it out because he's special. Because he's a rich guy. And it's not acceptable. If you're the president, if you're the president's kid, you should be held to the same standard. And we're certainly not anymore in this country. That's a big, big problem. And this problem's, the FBI is a big part of that problem. They're the enforcement wing of the federal government, and they're not enforcing really anything that's useful. So as we wrap up here, I want to take a few minutes here. I don't know if I'm going to do another show before the election. We'll try to, but the election's a couple weeks from now at this point. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the races and kind of what you're voting for in November. Obviously, so I don't know if you heard that Michelle Obama was helping with a campaign to have basically people can't hook up and have sex until they vote. It's basically their pitch. No vucking without voting. I said vucking because that's what they said, with a V. Can't get that booty until you do your civic duty. This is who they want voting. Like, if I am somebody who is only going to vote so I can get laid, I should not vote. Like, they say how there's voter, voter ID is wrong because Stacey Abrams would have been the governor of Georgia if it wasn't for voter suppression. Right. No, you just lost because you suck. Truly. You truly suck. You're truly a low quality individual. But yeah, but the voter suppression, right? You have to show an ID to vote. That's what the plan is. You have to show an ID to vote. So that's voter suppression. Honestly, we have so little voter suppression, people just don't care. Like, it's so easy. Life's so easy, so simple. And of course, every election is the most important election of all time. Obviously, every election is the most pivotal, most important election ever. But it's so easy. I mean, we have a very, very easy life in America. People hate it. They're miserable. They're pathetic. They have to make up reasons why their life's tough. They wouldn't last 5 seconds in a foreign country. They have to make up reasons why their life's tough. Life's hard. But of course, they don't vote, right? Because voting is takes a little bit of a tiny bit of effort, like a tiny bit of effort, and that tiny bit of effort is way too much. We have to give them a month to vote, and they can vote by mail, and they don't have to show. You don't have to have an ID, because somebody who's too lazy to get up and go vote on election day and have an ID is a upstanding citizen who we want voting, right? If you're that late, it's your civic duty to vote, okay? But it's more important than that. What I've been trying to say for I don't know how long. What I've been trying to say. It's not your civic duty to vote. It's absolutely not your civic duty to vote. Like, Afghanistan and Iraq, after Saddam was taken out, they had their first election in years, in generations. And people show up in droves to vote because the first time they can ever vote for a person to represent them. But we don't care. We don't care at all in this country. We don't care about voting. And what's worse is if you don't care about voting, don't vote, right? Like, if you don't know what you're voting for, don't vote. We shouldn't be incentivizing you to vote. Like when I was growing up, it was learn the issues and go vote. Now it's don't learn the issues. Do whatever you can to avoid the issues. Like, definitely don't learn anything. Don't know the issues. Just vote, because people who are well informed are going to be voting, and you need to cancel them out. So, I mean, I think there should be a little bit more restriction on voting. Like, make them have to do something to be able to cast a vote. Just saying. So, with all that being said, what are the topics? What are the issues? Who are we voting for? What do you need to look out for? So, obviously, it's a midterm election. So, it's the House and the Senate, some governor's races, things like that. Obviously, no presidential race until 2024. But that's the question, right? So, what are you voting for? Do you know? Are you voting? Obviously, people vote for the president the most because they have the most authority, the executive authority. But Congress is still important, and deciding who controls the House and the Senate is important. Obviously, looking at most of the ads I'm looking at, right? It's like, hey, this person, this congressperson, this senator, this governor. Most of the time on the right, the arguments have been, for the most part, vote for this Democrat because the Republicans will make things worse than they are, or they're authoritarian, and they're the party of January 6th, which, or they're going to ban abortions. Again, nobody has even proposed banning. I mean, in some states that are very, very, very red, they have all red, representation, then yes, those states have banned it. But, in New York, they're saying, oh, the governor's going to ban abortion. Well, the governor can't ban abortion in New York. If they had the legislature and the Senate in the state Senate and the state legislature, then sure they can go do what they want to do. But the governor can't just do that, right? So there's not going to be any. I had a ectopic pregnancy, so I had to abort the baby. Well, we need to change definitions because that's not what people. I mean, that is technically an abortion. That's what the left uses to say, oh, you had an ectopic pregnancy and they made you abort it, so you had an abortion, so they want to ban abortions, and that freaks women out. That freaks people out. But that's not what anybody's suggesting, right? And 99% of the laws that are going into place are going to have carve-outs for life of the mother or, rape or incest, that kind of thing. They're going to have some sort of stuff like that. The left likes to take an argument that is the very, very fringe and say it's the mainstream, right? There's plenty of laws that are wrong because of the way they're enforced, or once in a while it's a situation comes up that isn't really expected, and the law is used and it shouldn't be. Right. That's why we have judges, by the way. That's why we're supposed to have judges. They can look at this and say, okay, well, technically it's against the law, but it's not it's not how the law is supposed to be interpreted. The legislature passed the laws, the executive, enforces the laws, and the judicial is supposed to review and say, okay, yeah, but somebody gets arrested for doing something that that was the law in 1812 that has nothing to do with anything today. The judge is supposed to take that and say, okay, well, technically it's a violation of the law, but the law is stupid. Let's throw it out. And that's what's supposed to happen, right? So the whole point of the left, most arguments I'm hearing from the left, from the Democrats, are we have to vote for Democrats so we can make sure that Roe versus Wade is enshrined in law. But the fact is, the Supreme Court threw out Roe versus Wade, so they can't be enshrined in law because it's against the Constitution. They can try to rewrite it, or they can try to put a constitutional amendment through, but the court says not. So they're going to say, well, we have to, have Democrat power forever, so when the Supreme Court justices resign or retire or die, we can replace them with Democrats. Okay, but you forced Stephen Breyer out so you could put Ketanji Jackson, and that didn't change anything because it's a Democrat, it's a liberal for a liberal. And again, 99% of the arguments, 99% of the laws are going to have a carve-out for abortion. And again, most states have a nearby state where someone can go get an abortion. If your state is so anti-abortion that, like, no matter what happens, rape, incest, ectopic pregnancy, you have to carry through the whole pregnancy no matter what, then there's going to be a state nearby that's going to do it. And most businesses are paying for it anyways. And why businesses are paying for it? Because having a woman give birth and have to have maternity leave and all that stuff and time off for her kids, she's not going to work as much or as often or as hard because it's not going to be her main focus. Her children and her family are going to be. So it's lots of incentive for the businesses to have the women abort their babies. Lots of incentive. But they're doing it because they love and they're caring. Okay, sure. They love and care about their bottom line. But even still, if you're in this country and you want an abortion, you can't get one, you're in the very, 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 very small minority. Like, if you want an abortion in this country, you can get it no matter where you live. Let's just be real. But they're saying that, oh my gosh, women are going to be put in their mouths sewed shut, and they're going to be used just for bearing children. They're not going to have any rights or any authority. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that's illegal to say gay in Florida? Because it's not. Nobody's proposing that it is. Do a little bit of research. Like, again, it's easy to hear what CNN has to say, what MSNBC has to say, because they're right in your face. But do a little research, okay? listen to both sides and then pick out the truth. Because I hear both sides of the argument, and I say, okay, well, this one's skewing it this way, this one's skewing it that way, but they both have some common facts. This person says it happened at 3 o'clock, this person says it happened at 3:20. It probably happened around 3:10. Right? Because it's probably somewhere in the middle. Or listen to both sources and decide which one you trust better. But there's lots of topics that are very, very important, and you have to spend the time. You have to think about them. All right? And there's again, the primary arguments on the left is they're going to ban abortions and women are going to be forced to give birth to children they don't want. By the way, if you have sex, you're opening the possibility to a child. I'm just saying. If you want to guarantee you don't have an abortion, don't have sex. Period. Point blank. Case closed. Story over. And the man should be responsible for it from conception. It might be a hot take. Oh my gosh, you mean that if you're gonna have women have to have the babies, that well then men should have to be responsible for it from day one? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, cool. We are on the same page. And I know women have to go through the physical act and everything like that. But then again, men can have babies now, so maybe not. It's this unwanted pregnancy. I want to have sex that could lead to a baby, but I don't want to have a baby. Okay, well, there's one way to guarantee you don't do that. One way. But we can't. That can't be an option. We have to have unlimited sex as much as possible because it's the only thing that matters. Right? We have to bring, and the left is also all about, like they say, the PC culture or that stuff. Who's running the PC culture? Who's canceling things? Who's getting offended by every little thing that happens? It's not the right. It's not Republicans. Who's transitioning kids? Who's all about the trans identity and identity politics? And that all white people are racist. Who's doing that? It's not the right. Who's responsible for high inflation? Who's responsible for the price of gas? Because, 2020, it was like $1.80 a gallon. Now it's $4.80 a gallon. So what's the difference? And Democrats saying, the party of January 6th. Okay, January 6th, nobody died. Like one person died, and it was a protester, a rioter, who got shot by the cops. And then the cops were heroes for those 5 minutes. So I don't know what you're arguing, but it's just simply untrue. It's untrue. And again, the party of January 6th, because they tried to overthrow the government. You realize that everything I said, right? The crisis pregnancy center is being burned down. 200 of them have been vandalized in the last 2 years. 200. But you talk to somebody on the way into a crisis pregnancy, or you talk to somebody on the way into an abortion clinic about maybe they shouldn't have an abortion, and you go to jail for possibly up to 11 years. But if you burn down a pregnancy center, so now nobody can go into it at all, that's fine. No charges filed, nothing. One side's all about, the norms and the everything. Well, again, the left wants to get rid of the filibuster because it's not useful for them at the moment. And as soon as they lose power, if they ever lose power again, they'll want it back. They'll want that back. They want to pack the Supreme Court so they can get what they want forever. Yeah? Well, then the Republicans take over and they pack it again. And now we have 75 people in the Supreme Court. We have everybody in the entire country is represented because everybody's on the court. So everybody's a vote on every issue. And why have a government then at that point? Right? Everybody's a constitutional scholar now because everybody's on the Supreme Court. Because we want to pack the Supreme Court. And that's what happens in like countries like Bolivia and Venezuela, the third world countries, right? The communist countries of Venezuela. They keep packing the Supreme Court. Every time a different side takes power, they add to the Supreme Court so they can do whatever they want. And then, again, eventually the entire country is on the Supreme Court. There is no more courts. January 6th, right, is the worst day ever. I mean, I'm hearing Peter Strzok say it was worse than 9/11. Like, you are an evil person if you think that. You think that January 6th was worse than 9/11? 3,000 people died compared to 1? Then you're just pure evil. You're on the side of the terrorists. And of course, because, a Republican president was and Biden was about to be president for January 6th. So they happened against, so Biden's a good guy and the Republicans are the bad guy. So Bush deserved it, right? I mean, Bush was president, so we deserved it to have 9/11. Is that what you're saying? That's messed up. The guy who tried to, the man, Peter Strzok, who tried to get the election overturned to throw out Trump because he didn't like Trump, is saying that January 6th, the insurrection, quote unquote, of January 6th was worse than ever happened. Well, you know about overthrowing elections. You tried to do it. So you would know, Peter Strzok. But that's the side. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of the people who say, hey, let people live and do their thing? Or are you on the side of let's change the genders of the kids? Let's have drag shows for children, where children can stick dollar bills in the thongs of men. Is that what you want? Because the elections are very, very simple. At this point, it's coming down to it. It's very simple. What do you want? Right? Do you want again, it's if the left takes more control of the country, then it's only going to get worse. They're saying, if Biden says, if Republicans were in charge, it would be even worse. They'd even have even more inflation because our Inflation Reduction Act, which was literally just the green spending, it's the Green New Deal just chopped up into smaller pieces. That's what it is, which nobody wanted, except radical leftists. But so that's what that is. So if that's what you want, if you're gonna vote for that, then that's what you're gonna get. You want more inflation? Yeah. Well, it's funny because all of a sudden the evil oil companies, the evil oil executives are all of a sudden, price gouging out Biden's president. But when Trump was president, they didn't. They were philanthropic. Right? How is that happening? The prices of oil is going down. Yes, because the strategic oil reserve is being depleted by Biden. Well, that's weird. It's almost as if he's doing it politically. He went to Saudi Arabia politically to ask them to pump more oil to help him for at least another month so he can get through the election. Because it's looking bad for him. We've learned what it's like when you have a career politician who's been in politics for 60 years. And we learn what it's like to have a politician who's been in politics for no years. And what's the difference? What's better? The corrupt, experienced politician who looks out for nobody but himself and lies like a rug. And again, at some point I want to go through all of his speeches line by line and fact check them because they need fact checking. But of course, fact checkers will never do it. Fact checkers say everything you said is true, but we're marking it false because they have an agenda. So the really important races to watch out for, obviously, the House. The Republicans should flip the House. It shouldn't take too much to do that. And then the Senate, as far as the Senate goes, there's really four main races to watch: Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin and Utah are there as well. North Carolina is there as well. But the main ones to watch are those. And depending on who wins those races will determine the fate of the country going forward. And if you're going to just be afraid because the left says, hey, this is the Republicans may someday do this, so we have to vote against them. Or if you look at, hey, right now things are terrible and the people in charge want us to, reelect them. People who told us we couldn't go to work for 2 years, who shut down our businesses, cost us our life savings. They want us to reelect them and reinstate their jobs. I'm going to go with no on that one. I'm going to give you a hard no on that one. But again, Raphael Warnock versus Herschel Walker in Georgia is a big one. And then Dr. Oz versus John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, who had a stroke and is, in essence, brain dead. He's probably dumber at this point. And no offense to him. Strokes are terrible. but you're not in the authority, not in the position to run. All he's doing is he wants the power, and he's going to have other people tell him what to do. He's not going to make any decisions for himself. He's got more cognitive decline than Biden. Just saying. If that's who you want. Is Dr. Oz great? No, he's an alternative. He's very moderate, in fact, where Fetterman's way, way left. So, make your decision. Vote wisely. And vote if you know what you're voting for. Don't just vote because you're supposed to. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can look at our Facebook page, facebook.com/PaperMoreProductions. You can email the show directly, papermoreproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe, share the post, tell your friends. We have a lot going on. A lot of reality TV stuff coming out. We're going to try to get another sports show out here soon as well. And I'll try to get out one more show at least around Election Day or before Election Day if I can. But I said subscribe so you get everything. And then whatever you don't want, you can obviously get rid of. You don't have to keep. But definitely subscribe so you get everything and you can go from there, plan from there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for sharing this post, telling your friends. It's very important stuff. We need to let people know about what's going on. The fate of the country is on the line. And they said it's always the most important election of all time. But this one's huge, right? If you give the left full authority, you will lose all rights. Period. You'll have the right to kill your baby, and that'll be the only right you'll have. So keep that in mind. Learn the topics. Take 20 minutes and read through the topics from an unbiased source and make your decision and go vote. Because, unifying the government, giving all the power to one side really hurts. The important thing is, honestly, if you're the Republican president, give Democrats control of the Senate and House to keep the authority on the track. If there's a Democrat president, give control to the left to the right to keep the left from going out of control. You want your rights and your freedoms? It's the only way to do it. Truly, it's the only way to do it. And the more career politicians you have, the worse your freedom is going to be. So get rid of all of them as much as possible. If you have the chance, take the chance on somebody else, somebody new, somebody without experience and without deep in the corruption, right? Like New York's governor, who her lieutenant governor went to jail for corruption, and she's buying off unions. She's as corrupt as the day is long, but let her black guy take the fall for it. Her black lieutenant governor, who she appointed, she let him take the fall, so she could stay in power and say, "Oh, it was him, it wasn't me." Right? Sure, it was. But like I said, subscribe, share the post, tell your friends, and we'll be back soon. Again, try to get more of these. I really, really want to at some point. Even if I change up the topic a little bit or do them shorter, more frequently, I think I'm gonna try to do that. Just get a video of, or listen to a speech of Biden or something Biden says, and just go through it with a fine-tooth comb and tell what exactly the truth is and debunk everything he says, because he lies more than anybody. He's way more. The newspaper will say, "Oh, Biden spins a yarn," whereas Trump lies and is evil and orange. It's just like if one lies, it's so cute. He's an old man who forgets things. If Trump lies, it's like he's evil and wants to eat your children. It's just a mess. So subscribe, tell your friends. We'll have all the reality TV stuff coming out here as well soon, weekly at this point, and then obviously trying another sports show out soon. So subscribe so you get everything. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Until next time, I think that's all. And bye, Dan.